Like last year, it was his second year. Now, of course, he's in his third year and he's very solid. You know, he's very calm in his approach, and I like that. And I think it shows also on track. You know, he delivers when he has to deliver.
Why Oscar Piastri is the future of Formula One. Not everyone can receive praise from the greatest current driver on the Formula One grid. But, as the saying goes, talent always spots talent.
Is underway. Lando Norris chops across his teammate, but it's a good reaction time for Oscar Piastri. The two papaya cars go side by.
But with a teammate as talented and gifted as Lando Norris, rising to the top is not easy. Fortunately, this is how Oscar Piastri is not only beating Lando, but also posing a serious threat to Max Verstappen's title hopes. So why is Oscar the future of McLaren? And why will he be the 2025 Formula One Drivers' Champion? Oh, and what about Lando? Has his hopes of becoming champion finally evaporated? The rise of Oscar Piastri.
How old are you now?
21.
Jeez. I'm 34, yeah, I'm 34.
Okay, the day we get beat by somebody who's born 2000 and upwards.
I know, freaking heck.
It's time.
Yeah.
Born in the heart of Australia, more specifically Melbourne, Oscar Piastri is the first F1 driver born in the 2000s to win a Formula One race. After attending Haileybury College in Melbourne, Piastri became a boarding student, receiving a scholarship from Haileybury and Imperial Service College in England. But even before this big life move, Oscar already discovered his love for racing. The Australian actually became infatuated with the sport at the age of just 9. Taking a page from the book of one Lewis Hamilton and dabbling in the world of remote control cars.
Championships is Lewis Hamilton, who's only 7 years old. But how long have you been racing cars for already, Lewis?
About a year.
So you must be pretty good at it. Is it easy to do?
This merely stoked the passion in the heart of the young Aussie, who would find himself on the karting scene in late 2011. It took about 5 years for Oscar to solidify his name in karting, being picked up by Ricky Flynn Motorsport in 2015. The signing was a match made in heaven, and thanks to already being able to move to the UK, Oscar was headed on a flight to Britain. Even though things in the UK were a little trickier, Piastri would enter the World Karting Championships in 2016, where he'd finish a modest 6th in Bahrain. However, this wasn't enough to enter Formula racing.
What do you guys think about Lewis's comments about F1 being a billionaire boys club? Is it? Does it matter if it is? And why do you think Lewis brought it up all of a sudden? Lee?
Yes, F1 had become a sport for the billionaires, according to Lewis and many other fans. However, Oscar had the backing, and his father Chris Piastri was the founder and owner of the Australian company HP Tuners. Oscar quickly rose to prominence in Formula racing, moving through the ranks and eventually earning a drive for Prema racing in Formula 3. The Aussie continued building towards his career, racking up these minor league wins, and by 2021, Piastri was already driving in Formula 2. Spoiler alert, the Aussie would go on to win the F2 championship and simultaneously earn a contract as a reserve driver for Alpine. Over the next year, Oscar was sitting on the sidelines as Fernando became the #1 choice, alongside Esteban Ocon. Finally, his fortunes changed in 2023, and even though his move from Alpine to McLaren was marred in controversy, Oscar finally had a Formula One seat. Over the next 2 years, the Aussie continued learning the car, honing his skills and playing second fiddle to Lando. Well, then the 2025 season came around, and with McLaren now having 2 of the best drivers on the grid and the best car, all bets were off. If you'd like to see an even deeper dive into the rise and career of Oscar Piastri, make sure to let us know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. Your support is what keeps us going. Oscar versus Lando. The 2025 season was different. A different feeling was in the air as the grid headed to Australia for the first race. Fans were hoping for something different, perhaps even a battle between the two papaya cars. But it was all quiet on the side of the Aussie, who'd spin off in the wet conditions. But this would also be where everything changed. Piastri followed it up with a brilliant drive in China to take the win. And after Verstappen took the W at Suzuka, Piastri went on a spree, winning in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Miami. He'd follow it up with another solid victory in Spain, as Lando and Max traded wins at Imola and Monaco. Following a ridiculous McLaren incident in Canada,
and Norris can't fight his way by. We go to turn one. No, he's ripped off the front wing. The McLarens collide. Lando Norris.
it means at the time of writing, Oscar Piastri has pulled out a 22-point lead in the championship. Now, Lando is on the back foot, and the British driver might need to take a few more risks if he is to once again close the gap to Oscar, which could potentially lead to even more problems for Britain. Another interesting fact about these two drivers, given their first 50 races as teammates, suggests Lando holds a 32-14 lead in head-to-head races, also accounting for races the two didn't finish. This means that on paper, Lando is the better and more successful driver. The only problem is that this doesn't necessarily translate to on-track performances in 2025. Lando messed up in Suzuka, being unable to pass Verstappen. He only managed 4th in qualifying at Saudi Arabia, 6th in Bahrain, and failed to make a timely overtake on Verstappen in Miami. Meanwhile, Piastri has been cutting through the field, and aside from the lack of concentration at turn 1 in Imola, the Aussie has been calmly working his way into the lead before pulling away. This means that by the time Lando has passed the field, Oscar is already a few seconds up the road, making it impossible for Norris to catch back up. It leads fans to believe that when the pressure is on, Oscar is the more reliable of the two to make something happen, which might prove critical now that Verstappen and George Russell are laying their claim on a possible title challenge. So, why should McLaren now focus on Oscar and turn Lando into a number 2 driver? It seems like other teams are catching up. Ferrari is slowly gaining pace, but good strategy still eludes the Scuderia. And Verstappen is driving the Red Bull into positions it doesn't deserve to be. This means that the next few races from Canada onward will be tough for the Papaya outfit, and they will need to work as a team, like how Valtteri Bottas helped Lewis and Sergio Perez helped Max. The main problem with having Lando fight for himself is that the British driver has clearly said that he is unwilling to become a, well, prick, like many other drivers who have come before. In fact, being nice was never part of the mantra for either Lewis Hamilton, Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher, or Max Verstappen. And the aggressive mentality has carried them to incredible success in Formula One. Lando doesn't want to become that guy. This means Max would likely continue bullying him on the start line, while Oscar is the one who gets away and builds a lead. However, if Max is in the lead, then McLaren might need to choose who they sacrifice to perhaps do an undercut or even hold another car back. This is likely where Lando will be sacrificed along the way. For now, McLaren still holds P1 and P2 in the championship, with anyone else still being a fair way off. If the season continues like this, Piastri will just win the title without having to sacrifice Lando. But Lando will need to shake his nice guy attitude if he wants to fight with his partner. This is what Nico Rosberg did in 2016, which eventually pushed him to become the champion against Lewis Hamilton. But what about the next few years? Is Oscar actually the next Senna or Mika Häkkinen McLaren had hoped for?
Why Oscar Piastri is the future of McLaren? Let's face it, if there is one McLaren driver who is likely to become champion, it is not Lando Norris. And this means that Oscar will win his first in 2025. When you have a champion already on board, especially one as young as Piastri, it is likely that all the attention and focus, especially around the development of the car, will be done around the Aussie driver. This means that the car will become more and more tuned to favour Piastri, which means that it will become a little harder to drive for the British driver. As such, Oscar will continue becoming faster, while Lando suffers the same fate as anyone else who has been driving in the second Red Bull car. Moreover, the lofty ambitions of Norris might also force the Brit to reconsider staying with McLaren, and no one would be surprised to see him pull off a move like Fernando Alonso in 2008 to move to a different manufacturer, because he cannot coexist with his teammate. But as the title of this video suggests, Oscar is not only the future of McLaren, but perhaps the new face of Formula One as a sport. Depending on the new regulations and whether or not McLaren can carry their momentum into the 2026 season, Piastri might go on to form a similar four-season dynasty like Hamilton, Vettel, and Verstappen had done in recent years. This means that in 10 years, Lando will only be a footnote in the history of the team, being overshadowed by a younger and possibly even more talented driver. This sounds a lot like Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost heading into the 1990 Formula One season. You see, it is all about history books, and we can easily see this following the 2008 season, when Felipe Massa put up a valiant effort in the Ferrari, but Lewis would win the championship. Now, more than a decade later, most people only remember Massa for being a valiant contender, but not as one of the all-time greats. The same applies to Rubens Barrichello and Bottas, which is perhaps the same path that Lando is likely to take in his career trajectory.
But being a British Formula One fan might make this hard to digest, especially since George Russell might be the future of British F1 drivers. We'd love to argue this out with you in the comments and also see why you think that Lando can still overcome Oscar. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our channel. It helps us grow and significantly improve the quality of our content.